afternoon, everyone. I'm JaVonni Brustow, and this is PopGlitz podcast. I am here today with singer and songwriter Rai Jackson. And Ray, thanks for coming. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. Same to you,
Um,
man. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So you've got a list of titles. I'll go over a couple. We already have a singer and songwriter, producer, pastor, speaker, actor. Which of those would you say that you enjoy doing the most?
Man, I love all of them. Just because, I don't like to put one gift against the other, but
Right.
um, I think probably the music is probably the songwriting is probably my first. Like I love writing songs.
Okay. I don't think I'd heard when you first started in songwriting.
Yeah, so I
And I
was a
followed you for a while. I was surprised I didn't know that.
yeah, no, it's cool. I actually gonna put my earplugs in. I actually, man, when I was a kid, elementary school, it's so funny because songwriting wise, my grandmother is like my whole family were musicians. My grandfather, my grandmother, my mom, like my great great grandmother, my great grandmother. And so like playing the piano, they were like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." Like they trained me, they started me off. And then when I started songwriting and singing, like literally, my grandmother was like, "Yeah, baby, don't open your mouth to sing. You just stay on them keys. Don't you do too much writing. You just do the keys." But like I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna do it." So I stuck with it, and now it's working out for me.
Okay. And just for those out there, I was called by a friend in regards to doing an interview with Ray Jackson. And at the time that we were speaking over the phone, all I was thinking was that he looks familiar. I believe that I've seen him as an artist and didn't realize that I had been following his church for probably a year online. Had already known of him. And so it was in the back of my head. I said, I'm going to check them out one of these days. But, I just never quite got around to it. And lo and behold, I was not expecting to be on having an interview with the pastor. So, likewise, I really I appreciate it as well. I
And here
had
we
my
are.
questions, back from like, I don't know, 2018 or whatnot. So,
Yeah, no, it's dope. And shout out to our brother and friend.
no, absolutely. And so now, regarding being a pastor, there's usually two types of people who've gotten into ministry. There are those, and also this is something I didn't recall hearing from you before. Usually those who, they grew up in church and it just, sort of became, their rite of passage. And then there are others that were a little more reluctant. Um, which of those two were you?
Yeah. So like I've always been like I love ministry, the aspect of ministry because I like being able to motivate people, inspire people, get people to look at things differently. I knew I knew I was supposed to be in ministry since about 5. My great
Oh,
grandmother's pastor,
wow.
yeah, my great grandmother's pastor was like, she asked me, she said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I looked at her and was like, "I want to take your place." So like I
Oh,
knew, yeah,
wow.
like I knew back then, but I think it's the title, right? Like I was reluctant about the title. Like
I
you say
see.
pastor and people start switching up. They don't want to be themselves. It's all of a sudden like they got to put on a face or put on a front. So even when I'm out,
All right.
I don't even let people know that right away.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I don't even know if I've known anyone who said that they wanted to be a pastor since 5.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I don't know
that's
that I
interesting.
wanted to be as much as I just knew I was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting. I mean, and I have to say that that's probably something that I can understand. I know that when I was younger, like 18 and 19, for some time I would like discover things about friends of mine because I had been in some choirs in the past and some
okay,
assistant directing and things of that nature. But I would like discover things about friends that they were hiding. There
mhm,
was lots of that. And I remember thinking, like, what is the reason that you have to feel like, either you can't come to me with something
yeah.
or that, you just have to be like another person. you know, around me. I mean, and I was, I wasn't a pastor or anything. I didn't think I was anybody special, but just saying that was the thing. So I completely understand.
Do I hear a calling to preach at some point? Is that what I hear you saying?
I do not think I don't think that that's a thing for me. um, but look at this. The roles are switched here.
You know what I'm saying?
Sean was trying. So our mutual friend was trying to get me to do something gospel related years ago. I think that I met him like 7 years ago, and I remember him talking to me about something then, which I did actually just within the last week get a phone call about about possibly doing a gospel type project. So I'll be keeping my
Okay.
fingers crossed on my heaven.
Okay.
So see, things have, I got things lined up before speaking to the pastor here.
That's it. Well, listen, I might as well just go ahead at some point have you on the well. We're gonna talk about that afterwards. Let's make it happen.
So last year was a lot. And I'm just curious, 2020, how has that inspired you, or how has it influenced you as an artist, in church, in life, things of that nature?
Yeah, man. I think I mean, like first and foremost, COVID was hard for a lot of people, and I think hit all of us unexpectedly. But in some ways, I think COVID was like a blessing in disguise for a lot of us because I think it gave you a chance to sort of sit back. And if you were wise, right, like you sat back and you kind of took it all in and you kind of had this moment where you could like, God, what am I supposed to be doing? Right? Like how do I live fully in this moment? How do I move past any of the anxieties I have? Am I supposed to trust in you? So I think spiritually, for all of us, it allowed us to have the moment if we were wise to take that moment. But I also think musically, it gave me a chance to really focus more on my craft. We released the
Hmm.
Get This song last year, and I got a chance to work with my business partner, Face, but also Tony CoVay, who's the son of Don
Yeah.
CoVay, who wrote Aretha Franklin's Chain of Fools and worked with Jimi Hendrix and worked with Quincy Jones. So I soaked up all of that knowledge and was able to just kind of sit in all of that wisdom and learn more about my own craft. So that was good for me.
And just think about the fact that you were able to actually get something done during COVID. And I say this because I remember Kelly Rowland said that she had stopped working, period, because she didn't, one, quarantine at home, and
Yeah,
two, she didn't know how to do anything. she had to like sit and figure out what to do, and it pushed back, work of hers by several months,
yeah,
just because, she just couldn't do anything on her own. So, as you said, as far as a blessing in disguise, your life was able to continue.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, and I was really careful. My grandmother's 90. I didn't want to be around her and
Oh
my mom.
man.
Like bring stuff, bring the virus back to them. But we kind of had our little quarantine bubble, and we just stuck
Uh-huh.
up to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's very good. And over the course of the year, there have been reports of blacks have been leaving churches, just based on, with what all has been happening, and a lot of the churches being silent on these issues. And, we're at a time where people have been very expressive about what's happening. Have you seen any such of a thing,
yeah,
or heard of those who've been uncomfortable with where they were?
yeah. And you said pastors are just people, period.
Actually, both. I was referring to people, but yes, I was just reading about
Yeah,
some preachers who were giving up just because of the climate of where things were, which I was surprised. I didn't know that that was happening myself.
yeah. No, for real, man. Like it definitely was a thing. I think the older generation, for sure. I've seen a lot of them that are like, no, like I'm not. I didn't go. I'm not going back. Um, I mean, I think church in general across, especially in the country, was seeing a decline anyway. Statistically, I think we see that like it says that millennials and Gen Zers are going maybe if they go, they only go twice or once a month anyway, right? So
Okay.
definitely COVID hit and it was like, yeah, peace out. But for those of us at the well who were already ahead of the traffic virtually, we saw our
Right.
numbers increase, you know what I'm saying? And especially because we're open format. So we don't just preach at you, we have dialogue, we interact. That has blessed us tremendously.
Absolutely. And speaking of the open format, tell us some more about that. How did you come across feeling that that was something that was necessary? Because, we don't, uh, it's not something that we see. I think like the last time that I recall even seeing something similar, like in mainstream pop culture, it was like an episode of, I think it was Desperate Housewives, and one of the women kept raising their hand, shouting questions during church, and the friend was like, "That's not how this works. Stop
Yeah,
it."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I had helped. So what I love is church planning, right? Like starting something from the beginning and then growing it. It's like, I mean, I love to play with Legos when I was a kid. So, I think that was an inclination of like, you start with this mess, this beautiful mess, and then you create this beautiful thing out of it. And so like, I had helped to launch the Table Church, which is in the city, which grew. It's a diverse church, multi-ethnic, multi-denominational. Really had a great time, a great experience. And then, so I'm a part of the Baltimore Washington Conference of the United Methodist Church, and they were like, "Well, what else can you do? What else would you, what's God saying?"
A
Um,
part of now, aren't you listed as a pastor there?
Under the
I
conference
just
of the at the well.
no, the it's Methodist church you mentioned, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's where I was. That's actually where I'm licensed through the
Okay.
United. Yep. So yeah, man. Like I was just like, I think, man, I traveled the country. I was afforded the opportunity to travel the country multiple times. I saw that like, the younger generation is not really, they're not vibing with church. They're not vibing with the traditional way of church. A lot of them aren't. Um, and we're like losing our babies, man. People are dying. People are getting killed
Yeah.
senselessly. A lot of violence in the streets. And so, how do we? The thing that I always saw that I think made the most sense is like sports and music concerts. People will show up no matter what their background is, no matter where they're from. They will get loud. They treat each other like family. It's like, how do we, as a church, create that sort of atmosphere? So it was like, all right, cool. Let's do something that isn't in competition with churches, but partners with churches. And let's do something that embraces the arts, embraces the conversation, a lot like you do. People love your format. So they're like, right, like they want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we treat Jesus the same. We should treat Jesus the same way. It's like the greatest sports
Yeah.
event, the greatest concert, and all the gossip, right? All the good gossip. So, why not do a format that
Instead of
allows
being segregated. I mean, it's Sunday.
exactly,
That's the most Sunday. Noon is the most segregated hour of the week, right?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So we wanted to create something that allowed people to just come together and have that like in your living room type experience, and if it's bigger than the stadium experience, but something that just people could all feel like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, and the reason why I'd mentioned your title with the other church, just because you do describe yourself as being, I believe the term is being a church planter,
Yeah,
someone who helps in building churches from scratch, which is a big deal considering the fact that I mean there are many people who have trouble with starting a church and having it grow. Period.
yeah,
So, to be able to do that, with, in multiple venues, you know, that's a
yeah.
very big deal. And I would say that I would consider that a gift in and of itself.
Appreciate it.
I'd
Yes.
forgotten that when I was going over your bio earlier, and I said, that's very much a good thing to be able to do. I mean, in most preachers' bios that I go over, there's usually one or maybe two churches in there.
Yeah.
And I think we're about close in age. And I don't typically hear of that many coming from anyone near our age. So, I'm just saying,
Beautiful in our
you
30s,
know,
right? Beautiful in our 30s.
yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. So I heard you say that you were your favorite artist, which is understandable. But since your background, you have said that you started in secular music. Um, who would you say that your favorite secular artists were?
Yeah. So Babyface is who I admire the most. Like his
Ah,
writing in the '90s was crazy. I think I was listening. And then like if you loved any of the artists in the '90s, you had to love Babyface, right? Like if you loved, I mean, I love Tony Braxton. I love Boys and Men. So like a lot of the songs were written and penned by Babyface. So you can't not like them and then not like Babyface, right?
right.
So Babyface, Michael Jackson, man, I always love Michael. I think Babyface, Michael, Michelle Pharrell is my favorite
Oh my
singer.
God.
Oh my god, like I love Rochelle, man. Like I try to every time she comes, I try to go to her concert. She's amazing. Um,
She is.
yeah, yeah. Like so,
Very
it's
interesting.
dope that you know who Rochelle is. Like I love that you know who Rochelle is. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever seen her live?
I have not. I have not, and I am 100% certain that that would be amazing.
Yeah,
I think my
yeah.
camera is like buffering or something. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, if she
I
comes back, listen, you got to go. You have to go. We have to get a group or something together. We'll all go. It's an experience, man. It's not even just a concert. It's a whole experience. It's a whole vibe.
I mean, I would imagine. I mean, I came across her when I was a teenager, and
Okay.
I mean, I had a whole playlist of similar artists. And I was big into studying music at the time, so I was big into periods. So her and all of her peers at the time I
Yeah,
was listening to. I think I have a lot. I think that's a line in my bio, about saying that I came from church, and so therefore I tend to respect the actual singers a little bit more.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um, she's absolutely she's absolutely amazing.
yeah. Definitely, definitely.
And I was saying earlier that I saw you singing Anita Baker's "Sweet Love,"
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a TikTok duet. Now that was great, and I had to say that that was a bit of a significant number for me. That song came out the year I was born.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Dope. Yeah, I love Anita,
and
man. Anita, Tony, current day.
you did say
Like
that you liked doing love songs.
I love doing love songs, man. I love doing love songs, and like that's a part of who I am. I think I struggled. That was probably one of my biggest struggles, right? Like when I was younger, it was this thing of like, God, can I still like do ministry, but have this like love for love songs, this love for passion, this love. And I struggled with that. I mean, my business partner, we had done several recordings and I would never put them out because I was just like, I don't
Oh my
know. I don't know
God.
what they're gonna say. I don't know what they're gonna say. Um, but I think I kind of came to this place where I really found like I found that place, right? Like I found that inner place and was like, yo, like if God gave it to me, I'm 100% gonna use it, and I just kind of had to stand in my own theology, my own sort of grounding, and be like, yo, like I'm do this, and it's worked, man. Like my first single, the Breathing Rock single, is a love song. Deeply, if you listen to it, it is about Jesus' love for us. It's really from the concept of Jesus talking to us. But you can
That
definitely
I
like,
did get.
you got it.
And it can be, yes, I did, and it can
Yeah.
it can be interpreted either way.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like it could be a love song you listen to with your significant other, you know what I'm saying, over a glass of wine or, on a beautiful night that you guys are having. Like I just wanted to make music that's sort of like this double entendre. You have to really listen to
Yeah.
the lyrics to really get into the feel of what it really is.
I mean, and I heard you say that before, and I mean, we shouldn't be demonizing something as a simple, basic part of life is love.
Yeah.
And this is you being yourself. I mean, think of Missy Elliott did an interview, not an interview. She just I was saying on Twitter the other day that she used to cry when people in the industry used to make fun of her doing her ad libs and her sound effects. And she said
Yeah.
that she cried at the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
And, 30 years later, it seems like that worked out for her.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And I,
go ahead.
no, yeah.
Just of course, we know how we tend to isolate ourselves in church and ministry, and so in knowing that there is nothing wrong with being able to sing things that people are able to relate to.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's where I got comfortable, man. I was like, listen, y'all are listening to R. Kelly, y'all are listening to Babyface, y'all are listening to Chris Brown, y'all are listening to Jasmine Sullivan. Guess what? This pastor got something to say, so I'm gonna go ahead.
And look,
Yeah,
the struggling that you had, it reminds me, I was in high school and I remember leaving church. And I think I got in someone's car and, start the car, radio comes on, whatever you last had on. And so whatever the station was, like it was a secular station, the way that she like jumped to cut it off, just like we were talking about earlier, and I think it was just the both of us. Like, I'm going to go and snitch and say, look, oh my God, look at what this woman is listening
right,
to in the
right, right,
car.
right, 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 right.
We shouldn't have to, feel that way. With each other. I mean, and of course, who wants to be around someone that behaves like that anyway?
Yeah, yeah, no, for real. Like people, I just feel like people are uncomfortable all the time, man, and they don't do this. They don't take the time to really like kind of like I think religion, most people go off of what they've heard or what they think they've been taught, and they don't take the time to like research it themselves or really come to grips with like what they really feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, but like, listen, we all go to like we've been to the Go-Go's, right? Then we come to church. We've been to the Anita Baker concerts. We've been to the Patti LaBelle concerts. I mean, every generation has their people. Patti LaBelle was up on stage singing the Lady Marmalade with like her crazy costumes, just like Missy and Maya did. Just what I'm saying. So like, man, listen, we got to chill
Right.
out. That's all.
And so now, and good point. I believe, forgive me, I believe your partner's name is 3J, correct?
The guy, yeah, the guy who I did the song with this song with, yeah, 3J.
Yes. Okay, you said it right. Um, I know that DMX is his favorite rapper, and so
Yeah,
it's the type of thing, to be involved in Christian music and to have that association is the type of thing that would like make people pull their hair out trying to understand,
yeah,
but
yeah,
as you said, you have shown how they have their relatable qualities. Um, a lot of people aren't able to get past what's on the surface. And I know that I have both read and heard some horrible things, about DMX, just because people stereotype. It is what it is. They don't go over things like, his redeeming, that redeeming moment in his life when he,
yeah,
had his mouth wired shut, and well, I guess that was enough, enough of what he was doing before, or just finishing off albums with, having some type of spirituality. But again, that involves doing actual research for people to know that it's easier to just,
yeah.
judge the image.
What's crazy, man? A lot of people don't know that DMX actually also helped a few churches out of like bankruptcy. Like he literally, like I think his own church,
Oh
matter of
my
fact.
God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. Like his own church, I think, was going to foul, and they were going to close down. And DMX was like, "Nah, like I'm gonna put in." Like he put in the money, the resources, and helped them to sort of revitalize and revamp their space. So yeah, I mean, DMX was a true soldier, man. True soldier.
Yeah, yes, I'm surprised. For for me to say that I felt I knew the guy's background pretty good. Yeah, it's a shame. Um, I missed that one, and I'll have to say that for 3J to have him as an inspiration. I mean, just the sheer fact that someone can manage to be signed based on the fact that they did a good performance with their mouth wired shut. I think that's worthy worthy of some praise.
Absolutely.
Christian or not.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. And shout out to 3J, man, because he's an amazing performer, amazing person. Love that guy, man. He's like, he's got the same last name. So most people think he's my little brother because he says it. And he is, he definitely is. Yeah.
And you both grew up in the DMV?
Yeah. We both grew up in
Okay.
distant places, PG County.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I think I had missed that, even though I assumed. And you said before that Christian hip hop doesn't necessarily let you um be yourself, and so you felt that that was part of an issue with I think it was a recent interview you all did, I believe in the spring, on just how you see the industry progressing, or even just in this area. Um, and you're saying that that's just one of the limitations there. Um, how would you say that you see this gap being bridged by others? I think that you're doing a good job at it, but um, do you see others possibly falling in line, or trying to follow suit?
Yeah. I think so, man. I think absolutely. I think, listen, you asked me the question about COVID earlier, and I think COVID really was the sounding board for churches to kind of get it together, right? Like, I think where a lot of places weren't embracing the hip hop artists, especially the Christian hip hop artists, or
Hmm.
they weren't willing to embrace social media and stuff like, and platforms like that, man. Like, there is a shift that's happened and is happening continuously. And I think
That's
people are
good to know.
having, huh?
I said that's good to know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the shift that's happening. I think people are wrestling with that because, right, like they realize in order for us to do our job, to reach more people, to build our audience, to connect with folks, we have to push past it. But I think it's still a work in progress. There's still a lot more work that has to be done. We had Dr. Tony Keith on in January and did a whole series on hip hop in the church. And that might be some of the
Yeah, I did come across that. Yeah.
yeah. So we talked a lot about the fact that hip hop is really a culture now, right? It is the
Mhm.
number one trendy like part of
Yes.
culture across the world. And so like there's this dual place, this dynamic where like church and hip hop fight because church wants to be number one. And hip hop's like, nah, like we are number one. You know what I'm saying? And I think church has to like figure out like how do we embrace it, we stay true to our identity, stay true to our beliefs, our morals, but like how do we embrace it and recognize it for the truth platform that it is? I think that's probably where church has its greatest struggle right now because hip hop's about truth, man. Hip hop artists are like, this is my truth. I'm gonna give it to you, whether you like it or not. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm gonna give you the raw, unsaturated truth about who I am, what I feel. Shout out to like people like Lil Nas X who's doing his thing, right? Like it's like, look, this is who I am. I'm bringing it to the forefront, and I think the church just has always wanted to be so in control of the narrative. It is having to wrestle with what does it look like now for some of its sins to be up front and having to go, okay, like they're telling the truth. We need to figure out how we embrace it and cultivate our own energy around that and our own movement. So
Right. Which is something that you know, I completely understand. It's something that I deal with, like from the political spectrum. There are people who look at hip hop and they see nothing but all of the stereotypes. And as you said, it's really about truth. It's people telling exactly what they have going on, what's been happening in the community, what they want to see happening. And so, you can't listen to said stories and just extract a picture of someone with a gun and just decide to say that, oh, we can't have anything to do, with this whole
yeah,
demographic, or with the culture.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's it takes engaging, I've said that COVID, if there's anything that I would like to see more to happen, it would be for us to just talk to each other. I mean,
yeah,
you've probably seen certain people come into church, and, the look that they would be given. And that's literally exactly how this divide between church and hip hop is. We watch this play out in front of it, in front of us all of the time. And at least, you spend the time in making sure that that engagement um, is happening more often, because I think that if church had it their way, that those people would not be talking.
Yeah.
They would be sitting in the back,
Yeah.
and slithering out the same way that they came in late, you know.
But you make sure you get your ties before they leave.
Oh,
Like,
of course. Yeah. Wasn't that, speaking of which, that was in a recent DaBaby video of how the pastor pulled out a gun if they didn't just put something in the basket.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah. Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
maybe not quite that forceful.
Now, but you know what? Listen, man. Like I think to your point, right? Like I think also one of the things we got to do, stop doing, is like trying to make everything have the word church or like gospel in front of it. So like if you speak conscious rap, like you're not really allowed in
Uh-huh.
church until you say I'm a church rapper or a gospel
Uh-huh.
rapper. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I'm like even with you, like you know, it's like oh, I'm sure people love JaVonni, but they're like, yeah, but he's worldly, you know. Until you put like the gospel of JaVonni, then people are like, oh, it's a gospel show. Like he's church. He's
Yeah. Yeah, I guess deal with similar, as far as the labels. Like, I refuse to, like, for the most part, like, I think all of my bios mention that I do media, and that I don't accept like any type of label to be described with. Like, I did a press conference about DC jail recently, and
okay.
the person who was holding it said that what I like about you is that you don't have any type of political branding, and I said, of course not, because I am not going to have, you know, anyone's narrative attached to me, because just as you said, there will be people who will come running if a name is in front of you, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. It's
Right.
supposed to be about spreading a message, and nothing more than that.
Yeah, yeah,
One would
absolutely.
hope.
Yeah. We can only pray and hope, right?
Yeah. So uh, you mentioned some great people that you were working with before. But if you had a wish list of people that you'd like to take on in the future, who would be on there?
Oh gosh, man. I think currently, I think Chris Brown is dope. So Chris, if you're listening, let's work.
All right.
Um, I think Jasmine Sullivan is amazing. Um, let's see.
I've asked this question to a few people, and I've gotten a few Jasmine Sullivan. She's running
yeah,
popular on here.
yeah. I mean, she's amazing, man. Kirk Franklin. I would love to work with Kirk Franklin, and I think not the baby, Lil Baby, is
Okay.
dope. Like I think he's an upcoming. Like I think he's somebody to really watch. So I'm really, really curious to see what
Okay.
he does. I'd love to work with him. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. You asked that question, it's like you start to freeze. Beyonce. I mean, who wouldn't want to work with Beyonce, right?
And look, I'll just interrupt. Who wouldn't want to work with Beyonce? I think if I went back home to like visit family recently, and how I was listening to someone go on a tangent about Beyonce and her, worldliness, clothing, not wearing anything. So I'm just, I'm just saying, this is a church, person that did this. So, not
Man,
quite everyone feels that way.
listen, man, I tell people all the time, if Beyonce did a gospel song or a gospel album, wanted to come to your church, all these people who got something to say would open up the doors and they let her come in. Like they be flooding, let people know Beyonce is coming to my church. Actually, her pastor is actually in the United Methodist umbrella, so he's a good guy. I love that guy.
Oh,
Yeah, Rudy,
okay.
sweet guy, man. He's amazing. Him and his wife. So shout out to them. But yeah, man. I mean, listen. Kirk Franklin does it all the time. Like Kirk Franklin works with everybody. Like tell
Yes, he
people,
does.
yeah, people gotta get off their high horse, man. Just have some fun, enjoy your music, enjoy your passions, and let God work it out.
Yeah, just lighten up just a little bit.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, yeah, can't stay trapped in the doors all the time.
Yep, absolutely. Um, so, yeah, I lost my train of thought. Now, if I were to happen to uh, check your headphones and see what you were listening to, what would I pop onto first?
So, man, I still, like you said, kind of listen to like old school a good bit, just for the vibe. But I check out everybody. So, lately, I think I mentioned Lil Baby because I definitely have been like rocking out to like him and just hearing what he's doing.
Okay.
You're gonna hear Chris Brown. At the same time, you're gonna hear D'Angelo. You're gonna hear Lauryn Hill. You're gonna hear
Oh,
Erica
awesome,
Badu.
D'Angelo.
Yeah, man. Oh man, D'Angelo had a vibe, bro. Like D'Angelo
Oh
had a
yeah.
super vibe. I miss him in music so bad. And then um, like I'll listen to I'll listen to the other side. I listen to gospel. So lately, Tori Kelly. I'm still listening to her album, Jonathan
Okay.
Reynolds. Uh, Kirk, of course, is
Good
always on my
choice.
playlist. Yeah, Lecrae, people like that. Yeah. And then I listen to classical at times and jazz as well, just sort of like clear my mind for a little while. So yeah.
Yeah. While I was listening to you all mention, or more so, 3J's favorites. I was saying, well, one, I was writing down some names of some people that I needed to catch up on because, well, probably similar to you. I think, our taste is pretty similar, but I have a habit of listening to old stuff a lot, and I'm like, Vonnie, you're supposed to be covering industry news. You can't do that if you don't listen to what the industry actually produces. Okay, put down the 25-year-old album. Like I was listening to like 2005 Mariah Carey yesterday, and I said, there's a bunch of stuff you've not heard. You know, you can, you've got another 15 years that you can listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, man, because that's what you grew up on. You know what I'm saying? Like that's you get it on. It's like that's your groove. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Once you find it, that's it. But yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I get that. Yeah.
It's so something that I kind of missed that I saw in your bio that I don't think I've ever heard of was you acting in the Kennedy Center
Mm.
a few times.
Yeah, man.
Um, One, what were you performing in, and yeah, how was that?
Yeah, man. So I was with the Kennedy Center for 3 years. Back in high school, actually, they had a program called the Traveling Young Players. I auditioned and got in, and I had a play sister who got in as well. Um, and so we did like original plays for the 3 years that we were in. So there were people who had done original plays. They became part of the script and part of the show for what we were doing. And it was like 6 months each year of just traveling, doing it at the Kennedy
Oh,
Center, and also doing it out at local arenas and stuff. Yeah. So it was
that's
cool. It was,
pretty.
yeah,
That's
man. No,
pretty good.
I was a theater. I went to Suitland. I was a
Okay.
theater major for the 4 years that I was there. So like I love acting. As a matter of fact, I just wrapped up helping out a buddy of mine. He's doing a student film called Threshold, and we just wrapped up yesterday. I didn't get home till like 4 or 5 this morning because we
Oh
were
my
busy.
God.
Yeah. So it was
Okay,
cool.
at least you were doing something productive. I just couldn't. I have a habit of staying up late prior to doing a show for no reason. And I could have been working. I could have been or I did mention I was listening to you preach earlier. I could have been doing that at that hour. No, just up. Absolutely, drink as usual, drinking coffee. Just
Yeah.
no other reason.
Well,
Just
that's why
up.
you were up. Like, how you gonna drink caffeine? Were you drinking the caffeine at this morning, like early, like while you were up?
No, I think my last cup was something like one, which
In the
of
morning?
course, yes, which of course sounds crazy, but that is this is how I operate around here.
I
I will
get
drink coffee at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm like, I want to do all this work and get directly in the bed after as soon as I finish.
yeah,
But
no,
just
that's
saying, at least you're doing something productive. I didn't know that. I mean, one that's cool as far as the traveling acting, and I did not know that you were working on something now. I mean, that's pretty dope,
yeah, man. It's pretty dope.
and glad to see that you're still working at that.
Yeah. And shout out to Brian Washington, man. He's my editor for The Bridge.
Brian
Indeed.
Washington. I think I know that name. I think that he was working in an LGBT nonprofit, I think.
I don't
Would have
know.
he
I know
had
that
has or had locks, I think, at some point in time.
maybe not. It might be a different Brian
Okay.
Washington. Yeah, yeah. This one was over at Howard. I know he was a percussionist. Does some great teaching and whatnot.
And it was a
And
very generic name for me to, to go on that tangent. Sorry.
I know, right? It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but cool guy. Just did the project Threshold, like I said, and hopefully he'll pitch it to the right indie film places and get some recognition. Maybe we'll all have Oscars at this point next year. Who knows?
No, absolutely. I point out the need to have more, the Black media that's in the area. I interviewed the producer for, or the creator of A.N.D, that web series. And one of the things that I mentioned was just that there just isn't anything else in the area that's similar, And so I would absolutely love to speak to someone, who has, another Black-run production
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
that's in the area. So, yeah,
yeah.
you just got my fingers crossed over here as well.
Cool, man. Yeah, maybe next year you have me on as the Oscar nominated Ray Jackson. Or I can add another title.
Yeah, I hope so. And I don't necessarily know a segue for this. I thought this was an interesting subject. So, you're a granddad.
Hmm.
This is an interesting story. It's a story that I like. Would you mind talking about that?
Oh, I'm a great. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Um. Yeah, man. Like so, I worked in the school system. When I first got out of high school, my college years, actually my first college years, and then, a mentor of mine who worked in the school system with me was like, you need like an actual mentee. So he was like, we're gonna look, assigned me to a young man named Travis, who I thought was ridiculous at the time, man, ridiculous. I did not like. He was a goofball to me, and anyway, he got detained. He, long story short, he was in foster care, could not go back to where he was at, and so
Okay.
I worked it out with the people who were his foster parents and the agency, and my mom, who was like, I thought she was gonna be like I asked her like, well, okay, look, I asked him why he was like that. He would call me after school. He'd be like, look, I'm not gonna be able to go back. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I said, yeah, like, so what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm coming to live with you. So which I'm like, you're what? Like, and
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
yeah, I'm 22 at the time. Like, what are you talking about? He's 14. I came home, asked my mom, was like, you never believe what this boy said. She's like, well, what is God saying? I'm like, what? Like, there's a possibility. Um, so we went through the stuff. We went through the legalities of it, and I took him in. Fast forward a couple years later, my ex girlfriend, who is still great friends with me, she was bringing folks to school from her job. She was a teacher at the time. She's a vice principal now,
Okay.
and she was bringing students. She would sort of like mentor the females. I would mentor the males. She brought a young man one time, Tay, who had court the very next day. So I went with him to court. 6 months later, 7 months later, his mom passed away from cancer. And he literally had nowhere else to go. And so
Oh
because I
wow.
was familiar with the school system and his parole officer, everybody was like, look, we'll acknowledge you. We'll work with you. And I took him in, raised them. And then now each one of them one of them has 4 kids. The other one has 5 kids. So I got 9 grandkids. They cannot call me
Oh my
granddad. They call me pop
God.
pop. They can't call me granddad. But yeah, I love all of them, man. Love all of them.
Okay. Only because I saw you use the word did I mention it. But
Yeah,
yeah, I completely understand. Yeah, you just don't want to hear. I also did not know it was that many either.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's 9 of them, man. Some of them are great. All of them are great. All of them are great. All are just a little more active than the others. You know what I'm saying? I gotta use that word.
Right.
They're just more active than the others. But I love all of them, man. Yeah.
Yeah, think that's amazing. I had a conversation about that recently where I said that that was something that I had thought about, like adopting a kid that's already, sort of progressing in age, like high school years, because usually, well, people don't like adopting kids that are that age. At that point,
Yeah.
they're in the system until till they're 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, for one, I thought that was an amazing thing, and I'd never heard the backstory.
Yeah.
Um, it's good to hear that type of commitment, dedication from someone within the school system, because there's a lot of people who just don't think anything decent or productive comes out of the system. So I'm just glad to have that type of success story to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Yeah. I love my sons. I love my grandkids. All of them, man. They get on my nerves sometimes, but I love them. If you ever looking to babysit, let me know. I'll send them right over to you.
All right.
Listen, right? He's like, and moving forward.
Well, there were. Would I ever babysit? I don't. Well, how old are they? For one,
Well, so most of
what
them.
what's the youngest age?
The youngest is 1, just turned 1.
Okay.
Yeah, and it goes from 1 up to 13.
I have only one thing that I've never done. I've never changed diapers before. I had a
Uh,
neighbor when I was 19, and she tried to pay me to watch her kids, and I said, "Oh, he's gonna diaper? No, sorry, no, not worth the money." As a teenager, could I have used it? Yes. Was I going to use it from changing a diaper? Absolutely, absolutely not. Another reason why I said that I think I'll wait until they're like, 14 years old.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I got you. Diapers are
so
crazy.
you mentioned it in a recent, I think this was a recent Facebook Live that you did with the church, where you said that you were manifesting, I believe, the next level. So what would you say? What does the next level look like for Ray Jackson?
Yeah, man. So I would love. My goal is to like be able to travel globally, and one use my speaking to help people, help motivate people. One, I think also to help people who are trying to grow their entities if they're creative and innovative, and it doesn't necessarily have to be church, just
Hmm.
things that people that are trying to reach communities, right? So I want to
Okay.
travel, be able to help people do that, speak, and then like use my music as a platform within that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get some entertainment while I'm doing that sort of thing. Maybe do
Oh
some local,
yeah.
yeah. So try to tie all of that
More
into
of these
one.
events need to have entertainment, so that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's a perfect time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that'd be dope, man. And then like I'm acting on, doing some acting as well. So all of that combined into one, just using all those gifts and the platforms that come about.
Okay, that's very good. And it sounded like you were addressing, well, for one, if you're going to be telling people about how to or helping with growing their entities, that sounds like you're addressing the business aspect. I think that's Hezekiah Walker. I need to double check. Who's supposed to be coming here to Virginia Union University, specifically doing an event talking about helping artists with, particularly in gospel, with the back end of their work, um, which is important because, again, I know that we're close in age, and I know that there are artists. There's so many people. I'm always checking up on people that are written about. I go back and I dig people up all the time. I know some people are like, why is Monty, why is he asking about so and so? And it's always disheartening when I either get, bad news about some folks, or particularly a lot of the early gospel people that I knew, so many have, just dropped off and quit what they were doing.
Yeah,
A significant number. Come to think of it, people whose, talents I, really enjoyed, and I've always been into, highlighting, other industry people. Um, and so knowing that, and I know that you do A&R as well, um, just how important do you see this as far as addressing or helping artists with their business? Because
I think that's extremely. important, bro. Like I think that's extremely. I think you know, again, right? Like when we talk about, especially, well, nah, I think you're right. Like just artists in general, like you got to have some sort of sense of business, right? Like you can't just put out. And there's some other artists. You're right. Like I'm constantly saying, like you can't just put your stuff out there and expect it to just do whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's artists. I tell people about the same things with church, any entity, nonprofit. If you're trying to build a for-profit business, whatever you're doing, there's a business that comes with it, and your business is what matures you and progresses you to wherever you're trying to go. You absolutely have to have some sense of how do I network, how do I promote, how do I advertise? Am I willing to put my own money and invest in myself? If you don't invest in you, who else will? Right. So like
Right.
all of that stuff is, right? Like all of that stuff, it matters, you know what I mean? And I think it's the difference between those who have some success and those who don't have any success.
Yeah, I mean, I even think of uh, uh, try not to mention a name. Um, People that I've known in ministry and in the past. For instance, one artist was amazing on Sunday morning. Like she's a praise and worship artist, and her work on Sunday morning, getting started was just awesome. Inside of a mega church, everyone feels the energy, and then there's multiple ministries and or different choirs, etc., and there would just be a conflict and a breakdown of how it operates. And another artist within same church, who, in giving commentary from a business aspect, because they're business consultants, and it's a difference in being a good artist and being placed in a position and just not being good as like a minister of music for the sake of the organizational aspect of things. I've watched a lot of massive fallouts of these big groups inside of churches, but because as you said, it's the business aspect, which is why I just wanted to point out earlier when I was saying that you were that you had the title of being a or you call yourself a church planter, which is um, just a big deal because the aspect and the act of growing just one church is something. So the fact you're able to take this elsewhere with other people and other artists, I think is a great thing. And look, I don't want to hold you. I think I went a little bit longer than I said that I would. Um, but I do have to ask for someone who's involved in your community, and you've done a lot within the DMV. Given some of what we said the issues are in the area, I'm just curious if you could do whatever you wanted to fix things there, what would that look like? I think some of your educational background could come to play in helping this.
Yeah. To be honest with you, man, I think I would just want to help form more relationships. I think I would just host forums and events where people could just talk, right? Like, I think that's why the well, especially, is so important. And the bridge is sort of getting there as well. But man, I think I would just host a lot of things where people can listen, right? Like, I think we would have to teach how to listen, right? And then how to have
Right.
conversations. So right, like so because I think that would just heal so much of the pain that I think we see in our city, in our land. If the cops could sit down with citizens, regular citizens, and have conversations
Yeah.
about family, and have conversations about school, and they would start to see each other as people. When we did the last part of this, when we did, I think I was talking to you earlier about we did the well forum, a format where we did whose lives matter. And it was because we were asking the question, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, are we inclusive of all Black lives, the transgender community, the LGBTQ community, all right, all of those folks?
Right.
And I think what we had to wrestle with was when so many people ostracize people by their life, right, by how they choose to
Hmm.
live their life or how they were born, and we don't see past the fact that all of them are still God's creation. And so I think at the end, what was so powerful at the end of that particular encounter, a lot of the senior folks, senior citizen folks who tune in called and were like, dude, I would tell you I don't know yet how I totally feel or if I agree totally, but it was the first time I saw them as people. It was the first time that I
Okay.
heard them as people. And so I think, right, I would just have a lot of that space where people could start to hear each other as people.
That's important. I did wait for a second whether or not I wanted to waste time with that question, but I do have a community building spirit. I couldn't couldn't let you go without
Yeah,
without
yeah,
touching on that.
yeah,
I really appreciate that. I mean, even like the act of, just to go back to the act of taking those two kids in. I don't know. I don't think I've known anyone else to do that. Kudos again there. And
yeah.
so now tell me what the future for Ray Jackson looks like right now. What do you have that you're working on?
Yeah, man. So this week I am dropping the video for Your Love. So if you haven't heard For
Nice.
Your Love, yeah, like if people haven't heard it, man, you got to go check it out. It's streaming everywhere with me and 3J. And then this week on Thursday, we have a video premiere that we're gonna do. I'm in love with the video. Definitely has our sort of give a nod to social justice and Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. So look out for that. Like I said, we
I saw
just finished.
screen capture. That was good.
We just finished wrapping up the Threshold project, so hopefully, Ryan will have that on screens. I know he's got
Okay.
to edit it with a fast turnaround, so be looking out for that as well. And hopefully, man, like I've been doing some other videos for other artists and stuff like that, so I'm cameoing in different people's stuff.
Oh, nice.
And of course, the bridge and the well, man. This fall is gonna be crazy. The well is about to go into sex and scripture. So we're gonna have this whole conversation and series about sex and like whether or not it's like cool right now to have sex before marriage or after marriage. Are we talking condoms? Are we talking abstinence? Are we talking about what is gender? So like how do people view women? How do people view the LGBTQ community and all that stuff? But we're gonna deep dive and we're gonna go places that most people would not go. So yeah, all of that, man, all of that.
That's amazing. So I just had to double check the name of the of the pastor, so I didn't slander the wrong person. Just while I was listening to you mention, what does it look like? Is it condoms, etc.? I remember I just shared a video of Frances Kelly, um, where she said, what was it? She said, "Homegirl, if you're not gonna do right, um, at least you could send a nappy headed booger to Walgreens first. So that could be a part of it." All right, so yeah, sorry, yeah, that was a slow one. So tell everyone how they could catch you on social media or how to follow
Yeah,
you, and when they can tune in to see you next on a Sunday morning.
yeah. So you can catch me. Everything is pretty much branded well. So like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Facebook, I'm more active. Everything is I am Rai Jackson. I am Rai Jackson. You can follow me on all my platforms there. If you want to check out the well, just check out Instagram and Facebook. Encounter the well. Encounter the well. And we stream on Thursdays on the Amplify Network. So Thursday evenings at 8:15. The other piece is The Bridge, which is on Sundays at 5 p.m. The Bridge UMC DC. And so those are the three places you'll find me.
Very good. All right. So for everyone else, you can catch this on, this will be published on popglitz.com with a write up pretty soon. And until then, Ray, I want you to hang around just for a second after this outro, but I will see the rest of you all soon.